He's third in strikeouts. He broke the club record for wins by a left-handed pitcher 3 times, by winning 16, by winning 17, and by winning 18 games, which is still the record for a Ranger left-handed pitcher. He was an All-Star 3 times as a Ranger, a Gold Glove winner 3 times as a Ranger. That third Gold Glove, by the way, he became the oldest American League pitcher ever to win a Gold Glove. He was 39 years old. He's the Rangers' all-time leader in pickoffs. He's the only Rangers pitcher ever to steal a base. That maybe should have been first on the list. And I am told by reliable sources that in 1982, when he was drafted in the 39th round, having been an outfielder at Plant City High School, he weighed 150 pounds. Say hi to Kenny Rogers. And check the video screens. I think we probably have a little video of Kenny. You have something you guys are going to roll before we do this thing? No? Okay. There it is.
One out, line to center. Greer is there. He's calling. He's got it. Hello, up again. Kenny Rogers mobbed on the mound. 27 up, 27 down on July 28th. They're all here. They're all standing. Rogers looks like he's got tears in his eyes.
How about that? So before I start doing an actual interview with Kenny, I thought I'd test his memory with what I like to call Kenny Rogers Jeopardy. So I'm going to give Kenny the answer, and he's going to give me the question. Okay. Let's start with Ed Vandenberg.
He was the lefty that got passed up so I could be in the big leagues.
That's exactly right. The lefty that Kenny had to beat out to make the team in 1989.
Thank you, Bobby V.
You're off to a good start. That was the $20 question. Okay. Pat Borders.
Catcher for Toronto. I'm sure he hit a homer off me or something. From Lake Wales, Florida.
All of that is probably correct, but what I had in mind was, in your first major league win, you picked him off second base.
Oh, that's my first one?
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that at all.
Okay. Don Mattingly.
I'm hoping you say that's my first strikeout, but I'm sure that's not it. Not the first homer from a lefty, is it?
No, in your first major league save, you got him to ground into a double play. And there are a million possible things you can say about the next one. I'm just wondering what's going to come to mind for you. Jose Canseco.
Wow, I don't know where to start there. Well, most people don't know it, but every time you see that video of that ball getting hit off his head for a homer, I was the guy that threw that pitch. 3-run homer too, to boot.
That's the answer I was looking for. But then the following year, Jose did hit 2 home runs in your perfect game. Made things a little easier, maybe.
He did that and burned up some shoes and everything.
Okay, how about Ed Bean?
I got no chance on that.
He was the umpire behind home plate in your perfect game.
Now that I should know.
He was a minor league umpire, one of those AAA call-ups.
I think it was his first game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What a great time for him to come up for me.
Right off into the sunset. Okay.
They sent him down, I'm sure, after that.
Okay, the number 39, does that have any special significance for you?
39 straight scoreless innings.
Absolutely right. Rangers club record, 39 consecutive shutout innings in 1995. How about Marty Cordova?
Ooh. I know this is going to be about a homer because he swung for the fences quite often. It's got to be. Can't be my first homer. He was a little younger than I was. Nope, don't know.
He ended that scoreless streak with a sacrifice fly.
Better than a homer.
Now this I know you're not going to get, but I want to make the point. The number 146. It's the number of pitches that you threw in a game 3 different times in 1995. Can that possibly be right? I went back and looked up the charts, and there they were.
Dick would know I had more than that, I think, in some times, but I didn't mind. I loved the pitch, and in Texas, I figured the deeper I went was more beneficial for our bullpen not to have to go so far. So Texas was tough to get deep, but it was something that I tried to pride myself on because it wasn't easy to do, and I knew the other guys coming from the other ballparks were going to have a lot more trouble than I would.
Nobody's throwing 146 pitches these days. Okay, this one I have a feeling you'll get this. Mike Piazza and Andrew Jones.
Well, I know this is about a homer because he hit a homer off me, and it might have been the All-Star game. I didn't give up one to Andrew Jones too, did I? Wow.
Yeah, 2 All-Star game home runs allowed, 2 different All-Star games. Those were the 2 guys who took Kenny deep in the All-Star game. And finally, Mike Messina.
Wow, Mike Messina. Didn't break the scoreless streak, did he?
No, but he had won 4 straight Gold Glove awards at pitcher before you kind of wiped him off the charts and took over control of that award. All right. Now let's go back to the original information. The 150-pound thing when you were drafted. Is that actually correct?
No, not even close. I was at most 130. I was soaking wet and about 5'9.5", maybe 5'10" tops.
And you really had never pitched before?
No, I tell you, I can't tell you what the job, Joe Marchese, who's no longer with us, he was a Ranger scout at the time, what he saw and then what he envisioned was so far removed from what anyone else would think would be possible. In my mind, no question, the greatest scouting job I've ever heard of, because I was below zero. I was nothing on the scale of being a pitcher, and he envisioned far more than anyone else would of my ability to become a pitcher. And he's not with us today, but I wish he could have been around long enough just to see just how good of a job he did, because if it wasn't for him at this beginning and the end, and my whole career in general would have never started.
When the Rangers drafted you, and I assume they went to your house and explained to you the plans they had for you, well, what were you and your family thinking?
Well, Joe came, and the offer was, I don't know if I'm going to draft you. I think it was debatable if they had wanted to waste a pick, I guess. But he goes, we might take a flyer at one of the late rounds, and he goes, I was like, anytime you want to take me, I'm ready. But when we did get drafted and signed, I think the bonus that I got was gone within, I don't know, maybe 2 trips to McDonald's. But I was so happy just to be playing. It was by far secondary. So I was so fortunate to be drafted by the Rangers. I don't think people realize my personality and Texas in general, the atmosphere and the people that I had early in my career were perfect for me. I mean, they all helped me out in so many ways, and it's great to see the guys that are here that I haven't seen in a while, Pat, Shelly Shell, and Claude over there. I mean, I haven't got to see them in a while, and I'm really hoping to get to catch up with them a little bit.
So how did you learn to pitch? I mean, how did they do it? So you sign, you go to a rookie ball team, and all of a sudden you're in the bullpen, or it doesn't work that way?
No, I mean, Tom was my first manager in rookie league, but when I first got to pro ball, I'd never pitched. I pitched in Little League a game here and there, but I was not your guy that had any experience. So from the day I got there, they had to teach me everything, from how to stand on the rubber, how to take a stretch, any kind of mechanical adjustments. I was just trying to learn everything. And Sid Hudson was my first pitching coach. He was a Washington Senators pitcher a long time ago. And the things he had me try to do were probably not, I don't know if they would have been painful to try for most people, but I was willing to do anything. He had a contraption that would tie my hand down toward my wrist because I had no breakable. And after I got done throwing that, I'm amazed that I didn't have a surgery right after that. But early on, I can't tell you how much time the Rangers gave me to learn this trade, because I needed every day, every year. So I spent 7 years in the minors, but if it wouldn't have been for the Rangers organization at the time affording me that opportunity to take the time and learn these things, so when I did get the opportunity to get out in their pitch, I was ready for it. And that's why my connection to the Rangers is so strong. I owe them everything.
Do you have any recollection of the first game you actually pitched in competition?
In competition, yeah. Tom will remember that. It was, I think, my second year in pro ball, because they didn't put me in a game in the first year. It wouldn't have been pretty. But the second year, we were getting to the end of the season, and I still hadn't been in a game, but I'm working with Sid every other day in the bullpens, and we were at Payne Park in Florida. We had a game going on, and the game was going, I'm sitting in the bullpen. There's no chance of me getting in, but I wanted to be out there doing something, so I had to do a bullpen at some time. So it was like, I don't know what inning it was, 5th or 6th or something, and I started throwing my bullpen and got my work in. I just sit down, and then something happened to the starting pitcher to where they needed somebody to go out there. And they called to get somebody else up, but then somebody let Tom know that, I was already loose. And I think he felt sorry for me for the amount of time that I'd sat all season and not ever getting to pitch. So I think that, and he goes, well, what the heck can he do? He's got to get out there sometime. And that was my first game, was in that park. And I think because Tom got tired of watching me sit there in the bullpen, and I think I did pretty well, not having a clue how I did it, but I think I did okay that day.
I had it in my notes, and I used to talk every year before going to spring training to the farm director. It's not like it is today. There was no Newberg report. There was no information on guys coming through the system. So I would talk to the farm director before going to spring training to try and get a feel for guys coming up through the system. And I'd make little notes. I've got 7 two-sided loose leaf pages on you that I went through before doing this thing. I had a note that there was one year where you barely made the A-ball team coming out of spring training, that you were throwing about 83 miles an hour. But by the end of that season, something had kicked in, and you were up around 90. You remember that year? Is that really true?
I do, yes. When I got drafted, like I said, I was small, and I hadn't filled out or matured at all. And it took a few years, and then I think in Peoria, Illinois, for some reason, we had Ranger scouts and some of the head honchos coming down there, coming to the game, and I'm throwing, but I didn't know what for, because I never really watched the readings or listened to them, but I knew I was getting a little bit better. But it turned out I was starting to throw over 90 miles an hour on the guns we had back then, which were pretty tough on pitchers. But that was probably the starting point of me becoming, instead of just a draft that they were hoping for, to maybe being a legitimate prospect. And it was a change from what the norm was for me, really, because the expectations were minimal because of where I came from.
How about the spring of 1989, when you made the ball club, and you show up for spring training? Nolan Ryan's there, having just been traded. Rafael Palmeiro and Julio Franco are there. Ruben Sierra's there. What was it like for you?
I tell you, when I was 24, I think it was, after 7 years in the minors, being able to come up and, having Nolan there in your first year, it's like, I don't think I said very many words to him early on. I was scared to death. I mean, most people don't want to admit it, but I was scared to go out there and talk to anybody, but also get out there and pitch. I mean, failure is going to be a big part of baseball, but I was intimidated, no question, early on. But knowing I had great people around me, I mean, Charlie was there, Nolan was there, Bobby V, Tom House, Dick Egan. These guys helped me and gave me confidence in my abilities, but with all the experience and knowledge they gave me, it helped me overcome any of those, the fears that I had. But Texas, in general, the first game I pitched, it was in Detroit, and Bobby V put me in the game on the first couple of weeks, and I threw pretty hard. And I came in with a 1-0 count, and the first 3 pitches, it was against Matt Noakes. I'll never forget it. I don't think anybody forgets their first time in the game, but those 3 pitches, if anybody remembers how I pitched, it was pretty much all hanging out there. I had no clue of where it was going. I was just going to throw it hard. And those 3 pitches proceeded to go right at Matt Noakes' head. I mean, I threw them as hard as I could. I literally closed my eyes trying to get a little bit more into it. And probably wasn't what the mechanics you guys taught me, Claude and Dick, but I was a hyper kid and had plenty of energy, and I can't believe I didn't kill him, because they were right there. And I was so happy that I didn't kill him. And he goes to first base, and Bobby V comes out there and takes me out of the game after 3 pitches that had no chance of being a strike. And I'm sitting there with a grin on my face. I was happy. And the next day in the box score, I didn't even get the walk. It was a 1-0 count, so I didn't even get the walk. So the next time I got in there was really, it was better. But it's times like that I remember Bobby Valentine as my coach. He used me very well, didn't let me get in too deep early on, because I was so new that I could go either way if I got into a situation that was too much for me to handle at a time. He didn't let me flounder, and he built up my confidence to where I was able to come into games that mattered a lot at the end. And Russell was a closer, so if you guys remember Jeff Russell at the time, it's pretty nice to have a guy like that behind you if you get in trouble. He had some fantastic stuff, and best closer in the game, I think, at that point.
Charlie mentioned he thought you were going to have a great career as a reliever, and in fact, you had 4 great years as a reliever. One of those years you threw 81 times out of the Ranger bullpen. It's the second highest total in club history. Mitch Williams once had 85 in a season. But as I recall, you were always itching to get into the starting rotation. A couple of those years, you got a really brief opportunity. What was it about starting that appealed to you?
Well, there was a reason it was brief. The first time I got the chance, I mean, I wanted to do more. I knew I was capable of it, but I didn't have the knowledge or the repertoire of pitches. I was still just a 2-pitch pitcher, which was okay for the bullpen, but I wasn't prepared for my first attempt to stay in the rotation. But that first attempt gave me an idea of where I was at, and when I went back to the bullpen, I still worked on it. So in the next year or so, I developed some pitches, or a curveball mainly, that gave me that chance to be successful. And Charlie and Nolan, I remember them talking about, a track meet, for our team back then. And I was young and I had plenty of energy, and I told Charlie this earlier, but I remember Tom House had a circuit. We'd have to run this circuit, which was kind of tough. It was really tough. But Tom had all these ideas, and I was a pretty good runner at the time, and we were doing it, and I remember lapping Charlie like twice. And then I remember the second time I'm going by him, he goes up, he hollers out, he goes, "You can't run it over the plate, rookie." And I heard him. It didn't slow me down, but I was like, I remember that, and it's helped me through the years. I've understood that, the meaning of it was, that I still had to learn to be a pitcher, and all those little things that I've learned from a lot of people just watching. I tried to work out with Nolan for part of my career to get into a routine of what it takes to be a big leaguer. Me, like pretty much every other player that tried this, I lasted maybe 3-4 days, tops. Nolan's workout routine was phenomenal, but I wasn't prepared to do what he was able to do at that time, but I learned a lot about that. And those little things you learn, whether you're talking to them or not, you still see what they're doing. And I gained a lot from a lot of guys over the years that I'm very beneficial of the help that I got, whether they know it or not.
All right, how about the perfect game? What are your strongest memories of that night?
Well, I'd be honest with you, the ignorance of what the game was, I did not know it was a perfect game. And John Blake can verify that, because I knew what a no-hitter was. I really never even heard of a perfect game. My baseball experience was limited. No-hitters I've heard of and all that, but I never in my wildest dreams heard of a perfect game or thought I would be one to throw one. But after the game was over, I'm standing in the dugout thinking I just threw a no-hitter and all that, and I'm kind of happy. And he comes up and he goes, congratulations, that's the 12th perfect game in Major League history. And I looked at him and was like, what? Because I really didn't fathom it. And even when it was over, I think that's what benefited me the most was, I was oblivious to the fact that what a perfect game was, even though it's beyond a no-hitter to a degree. My focus was so good about what I was trying to do from the first pitch to the last pitch. And anybody that's played, it doesn't have to be a pitcher. Mentally, you get distracted all the time. And negative thoughts seep into your mind once in a while and can take you away from what you're trying to do. Not for one split second in that whole game did I think one negative thought. Didn't matter what pitch Pudge put down or what I was going to do. I was so comfortable and so calm that it was unusual for me to be calm at that time. But that's what sticks out the most for me. I mean, the results came because of the perfect game, but that focus and that calmness was something that you don't get to very often. And you can try all you want. It doesn't happen if you make it. It just, it finds you.
After the perfect game, David Letterman found you. How was your calmness when you went on the show with him?
Yeah, that was fun. I remember in the clubhouse with the guys, I was debating Leno or Letterman, and they're all, Letterman. I was like, all right. So I went in there, and I'm kind of overwhelmed in that stuff, but I distinctly remember how cold it was in that room. It had to be 50 degrees. There's no way you could sweat in it, because I was nervous as heck to be on national TV like that. I'm out of my element for the most part doing this stuff, but that was something. Those things like that you remember, and I'm not going to forget them. I remember them here and there, but my whole career in general has been very, very lucky, but hopefully there's some still good things to come.
As someone who arrived late to pitching, how did you develop that incredible pickoff move, and how could you possibly have turned into the best fielding pitcher of your generation?
I think if you're a left-handed pitcher and you don't have a good move, you're doing yourself a disservice, but also the team, because it's part of the game that maybe gets overlooked, to where your job isn't just to throw it and forget about what's going to happen. Yes, I love to field my position, no question, but mostly I was wanting to do as much as I possibly could to help myself get a win and my team, but it was a challenge to be a good fielder, to hold runners on. It wasn't like I started that, to be that good at picking off guys, whatever. There were guys along the way, minor leaguers that you've never heard of, that helped me, and I watched them, and they had fantastic moves, but I'd pick their brain and just try to learn something that would help me in whatever ways, because I was limited. Now, you couldn't be more limited than I was as a pitcher, and with fielding my position, my athleticism did come into play a lot, but I think it was more my mentality. I really wanted to not let anybody get a hit up the middle, because if I can control that area in the middle, even if there's little zones, then my shortstop and my second baseman, they don't have to worry about the middle so much, so they can get all those ones to the right of them or to the left of the second baseman. And I was just doing it to benefit myself as much as anything, but to make it easier. So I love that part, and I wish more pitchers would put that kind of effort in, because it is rewarding, no doubt.
And now that you've been out of the game for a couple of years, you've had a chance to reflect over that whole long ride. Does it seem almost a miracle that it happened the way it did for you, given where you came from?
It's unbelievable. If you had a story written on it, I don't think people would believe that these things happened the way they did. it'd be a movie, but it'd be one that would nobody would believe was true. So coming from being a strawberry farmer's son, 39th round, when he shouldn't have been drafted in the first place, it wasn't something that I knew was going to happen, but things happen for a reason. I believe that wholeheartedly, that I've been so blessed with in my whole life. I mean, my wife has been so good for almost 25 years coming up, that's helped me through a lot of hard times, but she's been there since day one, which has been an obvious blessing for, I think, any player to have someone behind you. And I've had that with pitching coaches, with coaches. I mean, I've got guys like Dick Egan's here now and Claude Osteen. They've been in my corner from day one that I met them. And as a player, when you have someone that's behind you, whether you're struggling or not, that added boost to your confidence can get you through the hard time, to where otherwise, if you're all alone, it's very, very difficult, especially in the high stress of being a big league pitcher. So I can't ever repay those guys in kind, but my goal was to do the best that I could, and hopefully that they understood their faith didn't go to the wrong guy.
Well, Kenny, we feel that we were blessed to have had an opportunity to watch you for 12 years as a Ranger. Congratulations, buddy.